Hey everybody, my name is Trevor Smith. Welcome to Full Burn, where we kick some tires, light some fires, and interview awesome space and defense founders across the industry. Today, I am with Brian Taylor of Lux Aeterna. Welcome, Brian.
Super happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Brian, where are we today?
We are in Salt Lake City at SmallSat, Small Satellite Conference, which started as a college conference and now is the biggest conference for small satellites in the country. So super happy to be here.
Sort of outgrew the lovely, quaint Loganville, Utah.
Yeah. Their city couldn't handle it, really.
No. So this is year 40, but the first year outside of Loganville.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, happy to be here.
Happy to have you in my mobile podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely.
The recording studio is a little different than maybe some other podcasts you've done.
Yeah, a little bit.
We'll have a little
much
fun.
better view.
Much better view. All right, so who is Brian Taylor? Just give us a little background.
Totally. So I'm an aerospace engineer by trade, structures, mechanical. Went to Colorado State and Georgia Tech for bachelor's, master's, both in mechanical engineering. Kind of traditional mechanical engineer doing structures, qualification testing, design, all sorts of stuff like that. Spent some time at SpaceX, Project Kuiper, Loft Orbital, really fun companies. And then about 10 months ago, started Lux Aeterna. And
So what did you do at SpaceX? What did you do at Kuiper and Loft? Maybe give just a quick kind of 30-second each one.
Yeah, totally. So at SpaceX, I joined pretty early on the Starlink program, right when we went from a normal-looking satellite to a flat satellite, which was really new, novel. There was a whole bunch of tests that needed to be done because nobody had ever designed anything like that, and there was no NASA standard for how hard can a satellite hit another satellite on deployment, which happens.
So you're deploying pancakes.
Yeah, you're deploying pancakes, and they don't deploy really away from each other, and so they kind of bump into each other. I had to come up with a requirement for how hard they could do that, which held for like the first 3,000 satellites or something like that.
How do you come up with a test campaign to bump pancakes together in zero G?
The easy answer is first principles. In that case, it's 1/2 mv squared, which is just the energy of two bodies that hit each other. And you take the worst part of one satellite and the most fragile part of another satellite, you put them on pendulums and you hit them together.
So the worst case scenario.
Yeah, the worst case scenario in order to get a limit. And you say everything else, it won't be that bad. So,
and so at your time at Starlink, did you Christian, my chief operating officer, did you guys work together?
Yeah, we worked really closely on a lot of testing, infrastructure, TVAC testing, Vibe, things like that. I was the lead for mechanical development testing or dev test, and he was the lead for the test lab and propulsion and things like that. So we worked super closely together. Had a great time working with Christian.
I don't get this opportunity often. Are there any fun or, more importantly, embarrassing stories about Christian while you guys work together? Because he's such a genius. I'm always looking for ways to give him a hard time.
No, I mean, he probably has more about me in that respect. Like, I was usually the one, or me or my team would walk into the lab and say, we got to do something really weird with the TVAC chamber or the thermal chambers, or we're thinking about this test. And he would kind of raise an eyebrow and talk through it. We'd figure out the right way to do the test together. But usually it was a responsible engineer that said, we need to figure out how to do this. And then we would come up with some, a weird wonky test on how to actually get that done. And people usually started raising an eyebrow, and then we all worked as a team to get it done.
Christian, you escaped the question.
Yeah.
Brian's being too nice. Oh my gosh. All right. So SpaceX, and then you had Kuiper?
Yeah.
Which is SpaceX's competitor.
Yeah. Right. Very, quite directly.
Quite directly, their competitor.
Yeah. Briefly, at the end of my time at SpaceX, I also did Starlink aviation. So that was putting antennas that are normally on people's houses on aircraft. And so that was a really great experience, a lot of bureaucratic engineering with the FAA, but kind of figuring out a different challenge. So that was in between, Starlink satellites and Kuiper. Then I moved over to Kuiper and was their manager of production, test, and tooling. Really took a lot of what I learned at Starlink and helped them spool up, ways to do testing faster and how that integrates with manufacturing and high rate satellites. So, more high rate satellite production.
So did you get lucky enough to get stock in both companies?
Yes.
Oh man! So you're gonna win either way.
I don't know.
You love this race.
Yeah,
you love it.
Yeah, I'm fine with them racing.
Yeah,
and there's plenty of internet that needs to go around, so they'll both do fine. Yeah.
What a politically great answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kuiper, and then you went to Loft Orbital?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so after that I went to Loft. I'm originally from Colorado, so took a role at Loft.
Sorry, I'll point out the beautiful mountainside we have here in downtown Salt Lake.
Absolutely.
Right downtown, beautiful views.
Yeah, they've got valleys on both sides. I'm from Denver, and we get them on the west side, and they're great, but I love it when I get to come places where they're all over. So
yeah.
After that I went to Loft. I was their head of mechanical engineering, and really the goal there was to take what I'd learned at SpaceX and Kuiper on high rate production satellites and transition that to helping Loft go from 1 or 2 satellites to many satellites a year, less productionized because they were different. They had different payloads. They had a different business model. So different, requirements and engineering constraints, but still very similar problems. So, really enjoyed my time there. And then, last summer, really it started itching to me that I wasn't working on a thing that was preparing for a post fully reusable rocket world, right? So the kind of leading candidate there is Starship, but we've got Neutron coming, we've got Stoke, we've got a lot of companies, and to me that's absolutely coming. And so I started thinking through when that world is here, what do I want to fill those rockets with?
Hang on just a second. We're gonna have a little fun here
And demonstrate it.
Yeah. There we go. Woo!
Yeah,
That'll wake you up.
Yeah.
Nice 7:45 in the morning.
Oh, that is great.
All right. So back to Lux.
Yeah.
We're in a Lamborghini. We had to.
Yeah, absolutely. Forgot where I was.
That happens.
Why did I start a company?
Yeah.
So,
that part.
Yeah, so looking at where the launch industry is going to go, and really wanting to meet that with something that, to me, has the same scale and consequence as a program like Starlink or Kuiper. That was one of the most rewarding things about Starlink was seeing Starlink terminals all over the world, bringing people internet. Some of the first people that we were beta testers were folks that were not connected to the internet at all ever. Yeah. It was in close proximity to COVID, and so there were folks that suddenly could go to school, go to work, that was not possible previously. So that was really amazing, and so the same level of impact and consequence is something that I wanted to do with Lux Aeterna. And so I started looking at, what are you going to fill these rockets with when mass gets discounted to orbit? It gets cheaper to get larger masses. And you can do a few things. You can get bigger and bigger and bigger, or you can kind of be in the same existing class for payloads, but add mass to add a whole new capability, which is reentry. And then when I started looking at reentry, I realized that if you design the vehicle from the ground up for reentry, you can also do it for reusability. And to me, that was this thing that clicked, that said, that started keeping me up at night and said, I have to do this. I'm not seeing anyone else do it.
I was going to ask,
driver.
We've seen reentry, rocket vehicles and space shuttles, but as we would typically think of a satellite like a refrigerator-sized satellite with solar arrays and propulsion on it,
yep.
has that ever solely returned? Because I'm not aware of any.
Not something that we think of as a satellite, but by definition, a satellite is anything that's orbiting a planet. So X-37B capsules, a space shuttle. Those are technically satellites.
Yeah, I mean,
to our knowledge,
yeah.
we're the first ones that are actually doing this for something that will perform satellite missions.
Yeah.
And so within the industry, it's satellite. Within technical world, it's another body orbiting a planet. So yeah, to our knowledge, and our goal is to apply this to current satellite missions as well as those missions that do want to come back. So in-space manufacturing, payload testing, things like that, things that X-37B does right now. And so, yeah.
So what is the biggest sort of value add to your customer if there is a satellite that's reusable, right? So it comes down, you got to survive reentry, which is quite hot.
Yep.
And then do you have to do any sort of rework on the satellite to get it back up? Like, what's the big driver of like the value add versus just build another one because they'll burn up and replace it in 3 years?
Yeah, for sure. So right now the disposability is driven by launch costs, and as launch gets cheaper and cheaper, you get this one-time cost that gets a bigger and bigger part of the mission pie, which is the satellite itself, right? And so in the long run, we want that to be, very robust, very reliable infrastructure, right? And it actually doesn't matter to the customer that it's reusable. It matters that it's predictable, that it's reliable, and that you trust it. Back to the aircraft analogy, you don't care that your aircraft is reusable, right? And you couldn't care less if they do one-time use or not. You care that it shows up on time and that it's reliable and that it's safe.
And I'm assuming cost.
And cost,
right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. That's kind of a given. Yeah. You have to do that. But for us, it's like, what else does this actually do? So yeah, absolutely.
I'd be curious. I don't know if you've done the math because I don't want to put you on the spot. But like, hey, I'm going to send up a $5 million satellite to do a mission over 5 years. But I'm going to look at Lux Aeterna. So I'm guessing your satellite might cost a little more on the first launch for you. But as a satellite to build, the cost, when you go to sell it and reuse it the second time, your amortized cost comes down. So like, have you done a comparison of like a one-time use sat versus like a 5-time use sat? Like, can you walk us through that?
So for sure that gets better and better over time. And we have long-term targets, and we know that what we can do now. And I think just like Falcon 9, you start out where you just get the capability, and then you then incrementally and iteratively improve different parts that need it. So it depends on the size class in general, but our goal is to reduce the satellite cost to the customer by about 10x.
Oh wow!
But over the whole mission cost, right? You have to. It's important to kind of cover the entire mission cost. One of the really unique features that a reusable satellite can do is you can plan for a 5-year mission. We're going to give you a very reliable, flight-proven bus. So we assume nothing fails on the bus, but the payload might fail. And so your satellite doesn't work anymore to actually bring value to the customer.
The payload being your customer.
Yeah, our customer. We can actually bring the satellite back down and take the payload out, put a new payload in, put it back up. We get additional revenue from that, but that original customer doesn't pay for operations. They don't pay for the time on orbit. And so that, like, the key there is that really changes the risk posture that you apply to payloads.
Well, I also think there's a huge benefit. No customers today can, if they have failed software or something on orbit happen, they don't get to do recon, right? So like they can't check it out if it failed, but you could bring it back and theoretically they could, analyze what went wrong, literally touch it, feel it, check it out, versus just trying to gauge from agnostics on board before it failed.
Yeah, satellite hardware engineers are uniquely constrained, where when a failure happens, you're limited to looking at a lot of telemetry that you get from orbit. Sometimes you get as much as you want, sometimes you don't, but you don't get the hands on the hardware. And friends of mine that were involved with Falcon 9 reuse, one of their favorite things being an engineer was to get the hardware back and inspect it, see what broke, see all those details, have hands-on hardware, and especially in the testing and research and development world, that's huge, and that makes a huge difference on iteration time and performance of an R&D program.
So let's talk about the seminal moment or the inception of Lux Aeterna. Can you pick out the day that you were like, okay, I'm gonna make this a thing. I'm gonna make a company.
Yeah.
Like maybe what did that day look like? Do you have co-founders? Like describe to us? Hey, we filed our LLC and we popped a bottle of champagne or something. Like what was that day like?
Yeah, it wasn't quite that eventful. So I'm a solo founder. I've had an amazing group of friends and colleagues and advisors that I talk to, in depth about all this. And what happened is I kind of iteratively came to this. It was not a single day that said, this is it. But the same way that we do design at Lux Aeterna is you kind of lay it out and then you allow people to throw rocks at it and you ask them to throw rocks at it and prove where you're wrong, poke holes in your theories on the finance side, on the engineering side, on the timeline side, all those things. And so eventually I would start getting a different reaction to those iterations where the people I was talking to would actually reflect back to me this aha moment that they see in what we're doing. And they say oh, if you can do that, that is amazing. And so I started getting more and more of those from my friends and colleagues. And that was really the turning point that said, I can stop kind of daydreaming about this and just get it done. So
that's it's a brave thing to be a solo founder. I'm sort of in that same seat. I have a silent partner. But Christian. So before I get there, so when did you start the company officially?
In December of 2024 is when we started operations in earnest.
So right when we met, I think we met at Space Power,
one of those,
Orlando.
Yeah, I started the company and then started going to a whole bunch of conferences and hey everybody, help me out.
Yeah. Well, you got some high praise from Christian because I typically will not meet with a company who hasn't even raised anything yet. Right? And Christian is no, you need to go meet with Brian. There's something special here.
Cool.
And that is a rare thing to come out of Christian's mouth. So props to you for that.
Appreciate that.
So you are year one into the company.
Yeah.
Any advice you would give to year zero founders who have just started trying to figure out advice and or things to not do?
I think for me it was a lot of founders have this idea that they may or may not want to start a company. And, I had that idea, wasn't sure if I was going to do it, started ideating and talking to people. And it was really important to me to wait until I couldn't stand it anymore that I wasn't doing that. Yeah. Because you have to, wake up and, eat, sleep, drink, and breathe the thing that you're building. And if you don't, you're not fully committed to that, it can be difficult. And that's come through in things like, investors, but also recruiting. The people that you're going to recruit, that they're going to bet their livelihood on this, they want to know that you're all in. Yeah. And so, it takes some time to build that conviction internally. And I think it's important to kind of give it that process as opposed to being I'm going to start a company, let's figure out what it is. And it really needs to get to that point where it itches so bad that you can't not do it.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I think we're at the point in the interview where we shift over into the fun, crazy conspiracy, alien space sci-fi corner, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So I'll start with this question. What technology from sci-fi would you pull forward today? Would you like to see, us humans have that capability?
I was in a workshop that asked this question, but it was a government agency running it, so it was very interesting that they went so sci-fi and tried to get out of the box.
What agency was this?
I can't say. I'd rather not say.
Okay.
But they're just trying to get the juices flowing on new and innovative ideas.
Yeah. I
think it is important to call out that there are government groups that are doing that and working pretty hard to do that through a couple of different workshops. When we talked through that, this idea of like teleportation and just moving anywhere you want to go without all of the things that you need, right, is great. Just as people, right? To travel all over, you need a car, you need a plane, you need a train, you need a spaceship, you need all this infrastructure, and the idea of just moving around kind of freely. To me, that one's pretty far off and not based in first principles in physics. But to me, it would open up like the entire world, the universe, things like that. When I think more about sci-fi that is more realistic, I think a lot about the limitations that we have on building the infrastructure that we want. And the one that kills me every time is lead times. And so, one exercise I like to do is take things to infinity or to zero. And so taking lead times to zero, really travel times for the example I gave a second ago. But if you can take lead times to zero, what happens to the world? And what happens to, the infrastructure that we do actually have to build, and how do we get there? So that one's a little bit more grounded, I guess.
So some beam me up, Scotty teleportation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the out there alien conspiracy one versus more grounded. So
on aliens as a topic.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone who has a good alien story? They've been visited by an alien, seen something weird, or do you personally have a probe currently inside you?
That I know of, I have no probes, no alien DNA or anything like that. I think, personally, I've had some weird experiences, whether they're aliens or supernatural or whatever, when I've been camping. They're obviously animals to kind of destroy the conspiracy theory.
Hopefully.
But
hopefully known animals.
But man, those are sketchy sometimes, even if it's just a bear. And you're like, maybe an alien would be better. They might be a little more friendly.
Make for a better story.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. But we've had a couple grizzlies and black bears and stuff like that kind of sketch out. So
so just from my personal experience, I've met a few pilots who had some odd stories that have seen things. There aren't bears flying in there.
There's no bears.
But they see some weird things in space. Any pilot stories you've heard of? Or do you know any aliens? Right? I don't know. Did you meet Elon? Do you think he's an alien?
I don't think Elon's an alien. I think he's unique for sure.
Yeah.
But don't think he's an alien. I do think there's this thought that maybe we're the aliens and we came on the meteor that destroyed the dinosaurs. That one's an interesting one to think through.
So we arrived here on a meteor.
Yeah. Life in general,
and destroyed
the fun animals.
Higher up in the food chain.
The kids, yeah. Yep, higher up in the food chain so that we can survive. But we are the aliens, and so we're all aliens, and we came from somewhere else. We just can't remember it. So I don't know. That one seems
that's a new hot take.
The closest one, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
speaking of space technology,
what
space technology either currently or will make once it's done your parents' life easier?
Parents' life easier. It's a good one.
I mean, you mentioned Starlink as an example. You're bringing people online. My parents live on a farm. They're like, oh, this Starlink thing is great. We never had Wi-Fi.
I mean, that one changed everything. And they had satellite internet, but it wasn't accessible. It wasn't fast. It couldn't be done. I think that's one. I think that pharmaceuticals in space are really interesting.
That's a great answer.
And what we can do with that, we're like just barely scratching the surface of the R&D that will happen there. And I think, thinking specifically of aging parents and all the medicine that they need, like that's probably the one that I'm most excited about. I think the one that I'm most excited about for the rest of us is that ideally space as an economy is not just a niche, and it's not just for space nerds like us. It's part of everyday life, just like aviation and maritime, but kind of an invisible life to our parents, or an invisible part of our life to our parents and lay people. But it's really throughout. We have that with GPS now, and I think we have that with Starlink, and I think having that with physical goods, with more people living and working in space, to me, that's a really exciting thing that will change all of our lives. And there's some really cool infrastructure that needs to be built in the background to make that happen. And that's one of the things we're doing.
Is there anything about space technology currently developed or could be developed in the near future, less than 10 years, that actually scares you about what's being built or already built in space?
So space is now a warfighting domain. And
wait, we have weapons in space?
I don't know that we have weapons in space. I'm not saying that at all.
There are no weapons in space.
There are no weapons in space.
But if there were,
there are nation states looking at it.
Yeah.
But as a support mechanism for ground forces, air forces, things like that. But it will move there, right? And for sure, orbital debris and the issues that come along with weapons in space is a thing that can quickly hurt the entire space industry.
Yeah.
You guys build MMOD shielding.
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah.
Space armor.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what's cool? I don't think I told you this. You've heard of the Kessler syndrome?
Yeah.
Don Kessler has a website.
Really?
And there's a phone number. And I called it 2 weeks ago, and his wife picked up.
It was his house?
At his house. It was his home phone number. It wasn't his cell, it was his home number. So his wife picks up, and she's like, hello? And I said, yes, is Mr. Don Kessler there? She's like, who's calling? And I say who it is. And she's like, well, I think he's busy. And then I was like, well, we made this cool thing we call space armor, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, oh, let me go see if I can get him. And then you hear her, Don! She's yelling, he's across the house. Anyway, I talked to him for like 30 minutes. He's an awesome dude.
That's awesome.
I think he might even come to our first launch for Space Armor.
That's awesome.
But it was cool to kind of talk to Mr. Don Kessler of Kessler syndrome.
With a thing that you're trying to help solve.
Yeah, it was super cool.
So exactly like that. The Kessler syndrome exactly is kind of what I'm talking about. There's not a high number of events that need to happen to really make an impact. I think, in general, satellites going up, we're helping solve that by bringing them down. I think in the very long term, just continuing to send them up and having them burn up in the atmosphere is not sustainable. And I think, a lot of people we've talked to is like, obviously in the future, satellites will be reusable. Maybe now, maybe not. Our thesis is that now is the right time to do that. But there's the more you put up, but there's also events that can happen in space that really put the entire industry at risk. So I'd say that's the thing in the next 10 years that I would be afraid of. So, yeah.
I had a question I forgot to ask when we were talking about your company.
Yeah.
One of my favorite questions. So it doesn't have to be at Lux Aeterna, but could be a different one, whatever. Was there ever a project, program, or like customer contract or you had to do something a little outside of the ordinary, a little crazy to lock in the deal or save the program, like we're in a Lamborghini and drive them around and, get them to like you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any examples like that?
I have a lot of examples like that doing development testing at SpaceX, right? Like there was a lot of weird, we're not sure if this is going to work one. On Starlink 0.9, the very first launch, we did that 60 satellites in 9 months, which was insane.
Wow.
And we knew that when we got up there, we're going to learn some stuff. So we got them up there, we got some telemetry, and we're like, we got to learn some stuff. What you do in that case is you do ground testing to simulate what's happening on orbit. One of the things that I had to do as a result of that was simulate the satellite coming out of eclipse when the solar array is at its highest efficiency and getting blasted by the sun.
Yeah.
And how that affected some of the electronic boards. That can't be done by solar simulators that are really expensive simulator racks. So what I did is I took a full-scale solar array, I put it in a insulated shipping container, and on one side I put, I don't even remember, 100, 300 Home Depot halogen lights.
Oh, God.
And on the backside, I put liquid nitrogen nozzles.
Holy cow.
And we dropped the whole solar array inside the box down to, negative 80, at negative 80 C. And then we turned on the lights, blasted it.
Oh, my gosh.
And then looked at how that interacted with the satellite itself. And it could not be simulated with a flat sat or a hardware in the loop testing.
Yeah.
And it did simulate exactly the issue that we were seeing on orbit.
Wow.
And so that was,
ironically, out of the box thinking in a box.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. So,
wow. I'm sure the Home Depot person checking you out was like, why do you need 300 space heaters?
Yeah, no, we got a pallet. But we had to. It was the interesting thing is we do kind of these crazy tests, but it was really based on first principles. We got multiple different types of lights, and we did a test on one solar panel, and we said which one of these gets the most, the most similar for the lowest cost, right? So not the exact right, but close enough to to the power curve on a solar array, specifically when it's cold. And it turned out that halogen lights, worked well enough, and we could get a pallet of them in 3 days.
You hear that, Christian? That's our next test. We're going to get a box and replicate that.
Yeah.
Because we have some solar arrays as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
That sounds like a fun test.
Yeah. So totally. We did a lot of tests like that. So that was one of the fun ones. I think we executed that. The first test where we turned it on was in 3 weeks, which is pretty crazy for a scale like that. So
that is wild.
Yeah.
The test campaigns, it's always fun because you're like, we got to come up with something that's never been done before.
And it's not what's planned, right? When you do what's planned, those are okay. Like they're good tests. They're super useful. But it's really the fun part is like we're seeing something that we don't understand, and we need to root cause that, and then we need to replicate it and figure out what's going on. And those are really the most interesting tests where you learn the most, and they really like exercise that part of your brain, and the ones that I love the most. So those are fun.
So we'll jump back into Sci-Fi Corner now.
Great.
So this question actually came up yesterday, and I may add this to the repertoire, but do you think humans in the next, call it 40 years, because I'm in 40 years I'll be something like 80. Do you think we will have technology where we can transfer consciousness, human consciousness, into some sort of computer-based system where we can extend life and still be conscious? And if we do, if we have a soul, how does that even come into play?
I think it's a super interesting question. I think there's a big difference between copying and extending.
Yeah.
And I think copying is much easier, right? large language models can make it feel like you're talking to a regular person. They can copy
versus transfer.
Yeah, versus transfer. And I think transfer is very different. And you know, I'm not sure what what are the criteria to say that it's transferred versus copied? If your original consciousness still exists, can it be transferred, or does it have to be a one-to-one where you're in a body and then you're in a machine, and you have to do that transition, or do you have to have communication, consciousness communication between those two, where the one in your body can relate to and interact with the other one? But I think that one, the transfer is the super hard part. But I think via copying and, especially, things like doing that for loved ones when somebody dies, I think that is much closer than 40 years
than a transfer
of actual kind of extension.
It reminded me, and I forget the name of it was like a sci-fi cartoon, but some of the characters were like, they were a head in like a goldfish bowl. And so you could picture someone's head being artificially sustained to life and then plugged into some computer interface where there's no transfer that happens, but it's just life extension with a Type-C adapter being plugged in, and you've got a battery backup. Maybe that's the middle ground.
Yeah, where you're not transferring it over to AI or moving. You're preserving the head, preserving the brain or the heart, or
because you can live without a lot of your limbs. No legs, no arms.
Yeah.
Where's the cutoff point? Probably the brain.
Yeah. Then you get into would you want that? Do you want to just be a head?
Well, if you have that technology, you could probably plug into some simulation where you're genuinely living in a simulation and you have a full body and all those things. Would you sign up for something like that where your head's in a cryo and it's plugged in and you have this totally simulated life? Would you sign up for that?
I don't think I would. That's similar to would you sign up to go to Mars? Which I also have thoughts on.
You could share that too.
Yeah, I think on the simulation one I wouldn't. I think real life is so full and so
But let's say you wouldn't know the difference, right? We may be in a simulation right now. You may be in a freezer somewhere in an alien spaceship, right?
Then you wouldn't know the difference. Then it doesn't matter if I would sign up to it or not. If you don't know the difference, it just ends up.
No, but you would sign up for it, but you couldn't tell the difference once you were there.
I don't know. There's a couple of shows that have kind of thought through this.
Like The Matrix, Red Pill. Give me the ignorance is bliss, as he says.
Severance is like that also, where they don't really know what's going on. I don't know. I like being grounded. I like knowing what's real, and thinking at least that I know the truth about the world, or at least trying to find that. So I wouldn't knowingly sign up to take that away from myself or somebody else.
Okay, all right.
But and
I would give it a lot of thought, actually.
Really?
Only if my wife, I could continue living. With I would only do it if I could have my life partner with me.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta. That's what I was saying is, if you can give that to your loved one, to your spouse after you're gone, that's super great and valid. Or if you can continue that that connection, super valid. I mean,
Well, I've seen they did this Holocaust museum where they asked survivors thousands of questions, and they used AI to build a personality off those questions. And so you go to the museum and there's this digital display, and you could ask the AI a question about the Holocaust, and then that person digitally would answer it. Which is kind of weird and cool at the same time.
I mean, the information's there. It's making it accessible and making it accessible to us in a way that we understand it very differently from reading the facts. That's one of the most amazing things about the LLMs and things like that is all the information exists. It's just the fact that you can, just like when Google came out, all of a sudden you can move faster. And all of a sudden you can move faster, and comprehension is one of the big things with the LLMs that's super amazing. So yeah, that's awesome.
So you mentioned Mars. Tell me about your go no go decision.
Yeah,
for Mars.
yeah. I mean, I absolutely think that we need to be an interplanetary, civilization and species, and there are thousands of people that want to be those first explorers, but the Mars atmosphere is rough, right? And getting there is rough, and Earth is an amazing place to live, and I think that. Yeah, I would have a hard time signing up to go into the red planet just to be on a new planet when once you get there, it's a rough place to live. And I think it's a thing that we need, and we need to do that as a species. But Earth is, we've got these mountains that are around us and like, oxygen to breathe and all these kinds of things that just get a lot harder. That's my thought. I want to help us get there for sure, but I personally wouldn't sign up.
I think if it was safe, huge caveat.
Yep.
And the travel time, at least one way, would be 6 months or less, I would probably sign up. So if I could get there in 6 months or less and then leave whenever I wanted to and be back home in 6 months or less, I would visit
for sure. If it's a one-way trip and that's where you're going to live and you're never coming back to Earth,
I wouldn't do
that. I wouldn't sign up for.
I wouldn't sign up
for sure to go visit and it takes 6 months or less. I would definitely do that.
But there's
saying goodbye to the entire Earth. The planet that is our home. Like that's the part that would be very difficult for me. Absolutely going to visit for sure.
But there's a long list of crazies who would sign up yesterday to do that.
Yeah, totally. And they can do that. That's great.
All right. We are getting close to being back. Cool. So I have a little wrap up couple questions.
Okay.
Are you a car guy?
I'm a little bit of a car guy, but not a ton. Okay. So if you want to test me, it'll probably turn out bad.
No, it's not a test. It's not a test. So what is the fastest you have been in a land-based vehicle?
I think I hit 130 miles an hour when I was in like my high school car. With a full car, I think.
There's 4 people in the car.
Yeah. You do kind of dumb things when you're in high school. It was a Volkswagen GTI.
A little turbo action.
Yep. Turbo was fun, and we kind of were on the highway and going down a little bit of a hill. So even though we had
everybody leaned forward.
Yeah. A couple of people in the back were like, "Hey, I didn't know we were doing this." Turned out totally fine. But yeah,
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, exactly.
So blank check.
Yeah.
What vehicle would you get? Doesn't have to be a car. Just imagination. Whatever. Somebody said Crew Dragon yesterday.
Oh.
So yeah, full spectrum of vehicles at your disposal. What would you purchase? Blank check.
Yeah. That one vehicle. I mean, I would love, there's a couple billionaires that have fighter jets.
Yeah.
And, just not only having it, but knowing how to fly it. There's one thing when you're these guys are billionaires and they have their own plane, but they have their own pilot. But having a fighter jet and knowing all the physics, knowing all the aerodynamics, knowing how to operate it, that to me would be pretty cool. So
I would want a 2-seater. That way I could go for a sunset cruise with a margarita. And I could also fly it if I wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be a 2-seater. It's a lot more fun to do things like that with a friend. So
I totally just bonked something. I had a F-35 instructor message me on LinkedIn, and I wrote him back, "Hey man, if there's ever like an opportunity to fly a civilian, I'd love to jump in." And he wrote back, "Trevor, it's a single seat. You're gonna need a license." And I was like, I'm such an idiot.
I know planes. I swear.
Oh, I swear. I know. I swear. I'm in the defense. Yeah, I felt like the dude. I mean, he's been instructing F-35s for years, and can I get a ride? What an idiot! I'm so stupid. All right. Last question.
Yeah.
Who would you suggest hop on the pod for a future episode that would enjoy an environment like this and be entertaining to watch or interview?
Have you done Matt with Astroforge?
No, and you're like the 10th person that said
Everybody, I mean, dude, their podcast is amazing. Right?
Oh, they have a podcast?
Oh, yeah, they have a podcast. It's amazing.
Oh, cool.
It's one of my favorites.
I didn't know they had a podcast.
The way Matt builds with transparency is inspiring for sure. And so, talking through engineering and how, he builds the company is pretty amazing. And so, yeah, he would love this, I think, based on his podcast that he currently has. So that would be a real good next one. But glad I matched with
anybody else, because he's been the most recommended so far.
I think some of the real early SpaceX folks, like Hans or Tom Mueller.
I've been in Tom Mueller's office, and I know he's a car guy.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should do the interview in one of his cars.
I totally agree.
He's got fancier cars than I can rent.
Yes, absolutely.
For sure.
Yep.
Awesome, dude. Sure. I have enjoyed it, Brian.
Yeah, it's a great one.
We're back at SmallSat.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for watching Full Burn. We'll see you next time.